up guys? So today you join me from the driver's seat of a Toyota Yaris T-Sport. Obviously this being the sporty one means that it produces 108 brake horsepower from its 1.5 litre VVTI engine. So a little bit different to your usual Yaris. This one itself has done 62,000 miles, which is absolutely nothing. So straight away jumping in this car, well, you're met with a very funky dash, which I actually quite like. I like that the dials are not in front of you, they're over to the side. Now don't get me wrong, some people might get in there and not really like that sort of thing, but I quite like the funkiness of it being to one side. Don't get me wrong though, when you are driving it, you sort of have to glance over to the side. So the owner, Jamie, has actually put a head-up display straight in front of you, which this is the first car I've ever driven with a head-up display, and I really like it. Now this is actually a retrofit from another car, but I love it. Although, you know, the dials are there, don't get me wrong, you know, it's quite easy to get used to, for me anyway, but it's lovely to see that there's a head-up display in front of you. It does sort of everything you need it to, tells you, you know, what speed you're doing, what revs you're doing. Now the modifications done to this car, well, you got an RSR concept rear section exhaust, you got an induction kit, and you're sat on Tein Springs, which still give a very nice ride, although a little bit firm, don't get me wrong, but I think they're a great compliment to the car. They still feel very comfortable, but you can feel that there's a little bit of sportiness in there as well. Now the modifications that have been done give a bit of more of a sporty feel to this car. You got a nice burble from the exhaust coming from the back end. You got more of a sporty setup on the suspension. The seats themselves are really comfortable, very impressed with those. Although they're a little bit hugging, obviously this being more of a sporty model, they still retain a lot of comfort. Now this is actually an import, so it started its life in Japan and was brought over. And I must say, driving it, the clutch and gearbox are very precise. They feel really good. The accelerator is pretty much instant as well. You've got a good feel. It's not really vague, which is nice. The brakes themselves for one of these little cars are very good. And when you do put your foot down, it produces a fantastic exhaust note. So a little first and second gear pull for us. Oh, she definitely roars. Feels really nippy under acceleration. When you do come up to a corner, you sort of drop it in and you can feel the suspension working in this little car. Feels really good through the corners because it's so small and light. It's got a great feel, there's no weight to it, so you're able to sort of throw it into any corner, and it's got a great feel coming out the other side. So as you come up to a corner, drop it, blip it down into third, and there's no weight to it whatsoever, and it just goes straight around the corner. Such an awesome feel when you're, you know, blasting around in one of these little cars. You drop it down, poke its nose in, and it's just going straight round. There's no weight to it whatsoever, and that exhaust note just coming from the back. Well good. Now it's a shame that these aren't as popular as they should be, because to be fair, they're a right laugh to drive. And if you actually drive one, you know, down a nice road and tip it into a corner, you'll really get the feel that they're a good laugh, and there's, you know, there's a sporty pedigree to the car. I just love the feel of the cornering. There's no weight, and the front just tucks in, the back comes with it, and you just don't feel anything from the car but it gripping straight round the corner. I do really like the feel of this car. It's got a good road presence, although relatively small, don't get me wrong. It's got a great feel. The feel of the car is really good, and you know, with a daily car like this, you don't really want it to be, you know, massive and, you know, over the top, getting into parking spaces and stuff. So I think for this, especially visibility wise, you're able to see right round the car. There's no sort of, oh shit, am I going to crash into something? You can see exactly where the car stops and where the car starts. So as a daily car, this is fantastic. And I think, you you know, in the cabin, you've got more than enough room. I'm really surprised at, you know, how much space there is for such a small car. And along with your funky dash, you've got loads of little compartments you can put stuff in, and everything's set in the right place. You know, you're not looking around to find buttons. And you've also got buttons on the steering wheel for your mode and your up and down controller for the radio, which in fact still works with the aftermarket Sony Edge unit, which is a very rare thing. I never ever jump in a car where the steering controls still work on an aftermarket radio, so big props for that one. So guys, here we are next to the airport on the Isle of Wight, rather small airport. We're next to Whitecliff Bay Holiday Park, which is rather exciting. I found a little lay-by for this lovely little car. So anyway, let's have a look around this Yaris T-Sport. Now, this is actually a facelift 2005 version, so it's got a couple of little different bits from the pre-facelift. Now, this obviously being the T-Sport means that it's got a strengthened shell, it's got side skirts on the side, just down there. It's got an analog gauge in the centre. Usually the 1 litres and, you know, the other ones have a digital readout. The T-Sport also has the different wheels on it, and the rear bumper has 2 fog lights instead of the 1, and the bumper insert on the back with the T-Sport badge on the back. You've also got this TTE top spoiler on there. TTE. Looks very good. I do actually really like the presence of this car, although relatively small, don't get me wrong. I think this is the idea of this car. It still looks very sporty, still looks very composed, and knowing full well that they're a good laugh to drive makes it all the better. I think these are a little bit you know, glazed over by some people, but they're a cool little car. I really do like it. The blacked out headlights on the front look good as well, with the sort of mesh T-Sport grille on there. Obviously got a private plate on her, with the green surround to complement the green bits on the wheels with the brakes, the centre caps and the good old valve caps. So let's have a quick jump inside, and you're sort of met with, you know, quite a nice interior actually, considering this is, you know, supposed to be a little get around car. It's still got, you know, controls on the steering wheel. You've got a nice little armrest here. Very big props for having one of those in there. It's also got an aftermarket head-up display, which I'm a massive fan of. And obviously the interior, I actually quite like the way it sort of goes round, and where the clocks are in the car. Sort of opens up the dash a bit more, so you've got more visibility. You're able to see through both sides. So it makes it fantastic for parking, because I think, you know, when you've got one of these, that's what you're really buying it for, is the daily uses. But there's enough room inside for you to sit comfortably on your way to work or wherever you want to go. And you've also got your genuine Toyota wind deflectors as well. So yeah, overall, cool little car. Power! Yeah! I love the way this car tracks and handles though. Such a small little car like this, you're able to tip it into any corner you fancy, and she just loves life. Really is a good laugh. With a heads-up display as well, that just takes it for me. I love the fact that you could just glance down, and through the windscreen you can see exactly what speed you're doing and what revs you're doing. So when you do come up to a corner, just tip it into your chosen gear, tip it the car in, out the other side. She's loving life, and you don't have to work hard to have a laugh in it. That's the main thing. Where it's so light, you can just throw it around as you please, with there being no weight behind the car. It's just such a good laugh. Power! You can also feather the throttle as well to get a couple of pops and bangs out of her. You don't see a lot of these or a lot of reviews on them, and I think, you know, for a younger driver, these are very cheap to insure, and they're, you know, cheap enough for you to buy as well, even one with, you know, low mileage. So I think this is a prime candidate for a first car. What does modified girls mean? Does it mean you got to stay on the clutch while there's a red light? Modified girls? I'm in a modified car, I don't understand. I'm all about the heads-up display though. Oh, So cool. Sort of a hidden gem, these cars. I don't really see a lot of reviews or a lot of people owning these cars. They're really good. I do really like them. So my overall thoughts on this car, well, you know, I've never really looked into these. They've never really, you know, jumped out at me as a car I would review. And, you know, when Jamie came to me and said, oh, I've got a Yaris T-Sport, I was like, do you know, I've never seen anything, you know, about these cars. So I wanted to know what the big fuss was about. You know, after driving around the lovely country roads, these are such a good laugh. And for the price, you got to remember, these are relatively cheap now. And I think, you know, insurance wise, they're going to be cheap for younger drivers. It's a fantastic recipe for a good little car, this. Whoa, look at that! What the fuck? It looked like it had rolled into the hedge. That must have gone so high because it hasn't even broken the we're gonna have to do an instant slowed down replay of that. Utter madness. Some of you guys wanted me to get Snapchat, so I went and got Snapchat, sort of show you guys what I'm reviewing on the day. So add me up on there. So guys, I hope you liked the video. Make sure you like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers guys. Power!